A world unshaken, setting the stage. Imagine a 1939 where tensions simmer, but the flames of war never ignite. Picture a world where the political chessboard is fraught with tension, yet the pieces never move into the devastating positions that lead to global conflict. No Pearl Harbor, no D-Day, no atomic bombs. The harrowing events that shaped our history books are conspicuously absent. This is our point of divergence, a world where World War II never happened. Imagine the cities that would remain untouched, the lives that would continue uninterrupted. The world holds its breath, teetering on the brink, but the plunge into global conflict never comes. The headlines scream of potential war, yet the pages of history remain unmarked by the bloodshed of a global battle. Instead, diplomacy, however fragile, prevails. Leaders meet, agreements are signed, and the fragile peace holds. The year 1939 bleeds into 1940, then 1941, without the world being consumed by the fires of war. The calendar pages turn, and the world continues to spin, unscathed by the horrors of a global conflict. This is where our alternate history begins, a history where the lessons taught in classrooms are vastly different, where the maps remain unchanged by the redrawing of borders through conquest. A world where the deadliest conflict in human history remains an unwritten chapter. The battlefields are empty, the soldiers never march, and the world breathes a collective sigh of relief. A world where the global order, for better or worse, follows a radically different path. The speeches of leaders focus on progress and peace rather than rallying cries for war. We are left to grapple with the question, what if? What if the world had taken a different path? What if the horrors of war had been avoided? This is the story we are about to explore.
The slow march of progress. Technology without war. World War II was a crucible for technological advancement. Radar, jet engines, antibiotics, all leaped forward, fueled by the urgency of conflict. But in our alternate timeline, these innovations would arrive more slowly, driven by different needs. Without the pressure of war, scientific advancements would be dictated by market forces and academic curiosity. The race to develop nuclear weapons, a defining feature of the Cold War, might never materialize. The absence of wartime pressures could lead to a slower pace of technological change. Innovations that we take for granted might be decades behind their real-world counterparts. This slower pace of technological advancement would have profound implications for various sectors, from healthcare to communications. The world would look and feel very different.
Empires unchallenged, the persistence of colonialism. World War II exhausted the European powers, hastening the collapse of their empires. But in a world without war, colonialism might have persisted for decades longer. Without the economic strain of war and the rise of nationalist movements in colonized nations, European powers might have held on to their overseas possessions. The maps of Africa and Asia could look very different. This continued colonial presence would have had profound consequences for the developing world. The struggle for independence would be delayed, and the legacy of colonialism would continue to cast a long shadow. The moral implications are staggering to consider. A world where the sun never set on the British Empire is a world grappling with the injustices of imperialism for a far longer period. The global chessboard, power dynamics in a different world. The United States emerged from World War II as a superpower. Its economy was booming, its military was unmatched, and its cultural influence was spreading rapidly across the globe. The war had positioned the United States as a leader in the New World Order, a beacon of democracy and capitalism. But without the war, its global influence might have been significantly diminished. The United States had long adhered to a policy of isolationism, focusing inward rather than outward. Without the catalyst of the war, it is possible that this inward focus would have continued, leaving the global stage to other emerging powers. Without the need to confront a common enemy, the alliance between the United States and the Soviet Union would likely not have materialized. The wartime cooperation was born out of necessity. a temporary truce between two ideologically opposed giants. Without the war, their paths might never have crossed in such a significant way. The Cold War, a defining struggle of the 20th century, might never have occurred. The ideological battle between capitalism and communism, democracy and authoritarianism, could have taken a different form or been delayed indefinitely. The arms race, the space race, and the numerous proxy wars might have been avoided altogether. The absence of a superpower rivalry would reshape global politics. International organizations, like the United Nations, might have taken on a different role, perhaps becoming more effective in mediating conflicts and fostering cooperation. The balance of power would be more evenly distributed, with no single nation dominating the global agenda. Europe, potentially still grappling with its own internal divisions, might emerge as a major player on the world stage. The continent, recovering from the devastation of the war, could have focused on rebuilding and unifying, creating a strong and cohesive bloc that could rival any other power. This multipolar world, while potentially more stable in the short term, could also be fraught with its own unique challenges and uncertainties. The lack of a clear leader might lead to more regional conflicts, as nations vie for influence and control. Economic competition could become more intense, with no single currency or market dominating the global economy. The absence of a dominant power could create a vacuum for new conflicts and rivalries to emerge. Regional powers might rise and fall, alliances could shift rapidly, and the world could become a more unpredictable and volatile place. The quest for power and influence would continue, but the rules of the game would be constantly changing.
The economy winners and losers in a world at peace. The economic impact of a world without World War II is difficult to predict, but some trends emerge. In a world where the war never happened, the economic landscape would be vastly different. The devastation that fueled post-war reconstruction in Europe and Asia never occurs, leading to different economic trajectories. The massive rebuilding efforts that spurred economic growth and innovation in these regions would be absent. Without the war, countries like Germany and Japan would not have experienced the same level of physical and economic destruction. Their cities and industries would have remained intact, allowing them to continue their pre-war economic development without interruption. They might have continued on their pre-war paths, potentially becoming economic powerhouses earlier. The industrial growth in these nations could have accelerated, leading to earlier advancements in technology and manufacturing. The United States, without the boost of wartime production and the Marshall Plan, might not have achieved the same level of economic dominance. The war effort had transformed the US economy, leading to unprecedented industrial output and technological innovation. The global balance of economic power could be more evenly distributed. Countries that were devastated by the war might have maintained their economic positions, leading to a more balanced global economy. However, the absence of war could also lead to different economic challenges. The war had acted as a catalyst for economic recovery in many regions, and without it, some economies might have struggled to find a similar impetus for growth. The Great Depression, a defining event of the 1930s, might have lingered longer without the massive government spending that accompanied the war effort. The economic policies and spending that were implemented to support the war effort had a significant impact on ending the Depression. Programs like the New Deal in the United States, which were expanded during the war, might not have had the same level of funding or urgency. This could have resulted in slower economic recovery and prolonged hardship for many. Additionally, the technological advancements driven by wartime needs, such as early computers and advanced machinery, might have developed at a slower pace. The war accelerated innovation in many fields, from medicine to engineering. The post-war economic boom that led to suburban growth and increased consumerism in countries like the United States might have been less pronounced. The economic prosperity that many experienced in the post-war years was closely tied to the war's end and the subsequent rebuilding efforts. International trade agreements and economic cooperation might have taken different forms, potentially leading to a more fragmented global economy. The alliances and partnerships forged during and after the war played a crucial role in shaping the modern economic landscape. In summary, a world without World War II would have seen a very different economic development. While some countries might have thrived, others could have faced prolonged economic challenges. The war's impact on the global economy was profound, and its absence would have reshaped the economic destinies of nations around the world.
Imagine, if you will, how the civil rights movement might have unfolded in a world where World War II never happened. Without the war, the dynamics of social change in the United States could have been significantly different. The urgency for equality might have emerged in other forms, perhaps through different leaders and movements. The struggle for civil rights would still be a crucial chapter, but its timeline and key events might have shifted in unexpected ways. It's fascinating to consider how the absence of global conflict could have altered the course of this pivotal movement.
In a world where the Second World War never took place, the lives of millions would have been profoundly different. Families would not have been torn apart by the ravages of war. Young men and women might have pursued their dreams uninterrupted by the call to arms. The cultural fabric of entire nations would have evolved without the shadow of conflict. It's possible that the innovations and societal changes spurred by the war would have emerged in other ways, perhaps more gradually. The ripple effects of a peaceful 20th century would be felt in every corner of society.
The enduring impact of peace in this alternate timeline would be a remarkable testament to humanity's potential for progress without the devastation of war. Economies would have flourished uninterrupted, scientific advancements could have accelerated, and cultural exchanges might have been richer and more diverse. The world, unburdened by the scars of global conflict, would stand as a beacon of what could be achieved through sustained peace. It's a powerful reminder of the value of harmony and the boundless possibilities it brings. As we reflect on this alternate history, it's clear that the world would have diverged significantly from the path we know. The absence of World War II would have reshaped nations, economies, and cultures in ways both profound and subtle. While we can only speculate on the exact outcomes, this exercise in imagination underscores the interconnectedness of global events and the delicate balance of history. It invites us to consider the myriad ways our world could have been different and to appreciate the complex tapestry of our shared past.